Hey, 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 Mom Nation, and welcome back to another episode of our love story. We have the beautiful, the famous, the fantastic Diana Weasel. What's up, Diana?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am well, and it is always so wonderful to see your smiling face. Before we get started, because I'm really excited about this topic, I think it is such a good one. So thank you for being here for this.
Yes.
But before we get started, I just wanted to let our audience members know that if you are finding value in these videos that we're doing, in these podcast episodes that we've been doing now for over 3 years, like if you're liking it, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button on the platform that you listen or watch this on. That sends us a message and lets us know that we really just need to keep on doing it, Diana.
Keep on keeping on.
That's right. So let's dive right in. This is a kind of a little bit of a spicy one, and I am so glad that we're talking about it because it needs to be said. Let's talk about the buzzwords in your industry that might get thrown around a little bit too much, and maybe their meaning gets lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely. Calling some people out today, respectfully, right? And maybe you know someone that you can call out after listening to this episode and be like, actually, you're using that word wrong.
Yeah.
So in social media land, we have many influencers that creep into our algorithm with different information, different buzzwords, different little bite-sized information that we may or may not love. But sometimes there are influencers that are using some buzzwords that you might hear often, either inside a therapeutic setting or not, that are getting misused. And the danger in misusing these words is that if you bring those into any relationship in your life, you could probably be doing more harm than good while just trying to express like maybe a behavior that you don't love or an action that you don't love. Instead, we're using these words and they're being misused and they're very damaging, right? Because there's people that really do suffer from different mental health disorders, mood disorders, things like that, that are really suffering with those things. And when we're using them as flippant, like, you know, little personality quirks or whatever, it's not okay. It's damaging. And we really want to get to the root of whatever the issue is in the relationship, not using these buzzwords. So we want to make sure we're using them correctly.
Agreed. So I know that you have a list of the buzzwords that you commonly see, and we're going to talk through that list. But can we start with the one that you see the most that you're like, this is so misused, it's ridiculous?
Oh my gosh. I think everyone could probably name what this one is because everyone probably hears it 45 times a day on their Instagram, TikTok, whatever. It's gaslight. We hear that all the time. Like, they're totally gaslighting me, or I'm being gaslit right now, or don't gaslight me. And gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse, right? It's a way to make the other person think, like, question their own reality, question their own thought process, basically make them feel crazy or that their thoughts are flawed and really like off the wall, right? It's a form of emotional abuse that a person uses to manipulate another person to, again, make them think that they're crazy to get whatever they want or to manipulate a conflict. But the way that we're hearing it a lot is in a way of like, you're disagreeing with me.
Yeah.
So if you disagree with me, like, oh, you're gaslighting me. Well, I'm not gaslighting you. If I disagree with you, I'm not trying to manipulate you or make you question your own sanity or your own reality, right? But like, if I don't agree with, you know, how something happens or how like a situation like felt to me versus you, like, that's not gaslighting, right? I can disagree with you without gaslighting you. So even if it's in an argument or a conflict with someone and you're like, hey, I felt angry because when you said this, it was really mean. Okay, well, I can totally validate that you felt hurt by what I said. I don't have to agree with you that I'm mean. You know what I mean? So like, I can't say that like, yeah, you're right, I'm mean. And if I say anything to the contrary, that's gaslighting. That's not what gaslighting is. So gaslighting is emotional abuse. If you see that pattern in a relationship, that is abuse. But for someone to like disagree with you or to have a different perspective, that is not gaslighting. So that is definitely the most common word that I see.
Second most common is
triggered. Triggered.
That's a big one.
It's a big one all day, every day, right? And so what being triggered actually is as a result of a traumatic event that you've already experienced. And it's a very visceral, somatic response to something that you've experienced. Like, for example, veterans that have a triggered response to fireworks because they've been in combat. They've seen some really ugly things, and it puts them right back into that place of being in battle, being under attack, and they're mentally put back into that place. And they'll have, again, like a very physical response to that. That's what being triggered is. Being triggered is not feeling uncomfortable that somebody said something that you didn't like, or saying something offensive, or saying something that just feels gross, or disagreeing with like one of your like core values or beliefs. Like, those things can still bother you and feel very offensive, but to use the word triggered sort of minimizes the actual experience of being triggered by someone who's experienced something very traumatic that puts them back into that place. So it sort of waters that down to say that something bothers you like it triggers you, because that is a very, very real experience for people who've experienced trauma.
Agreed. And to piggyback on that a little bit, I hear the word or the term PTSD thrown around a lot. And I think that is kind of along the same vein, right? Like, it just really waters down what that actually is.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those terms, and there's a few on the list here of, actual disorders or conditions that people have that are just thrown around as like personality quirks, you know what I mean? And, to use it in a lighthearted or a joking way to say like, oh, I totally have PTSD from that. Again, it sort of minimizes the experience of somebody else who truly has post-traumatic stress disorder, you know what I mean? And so it just waters down the whole experience, and it makes people be taken less seriously when they actually have it, because now it's become this like popular culture word, you know what I mean?
Agreed. What's next on the list?
Well, since we went with PTSD there, we can go into some of the other disorders that get thrown around. And one of them is OCD. And I hear this one a lot in social media land, and also at IRL, out in the wild. Obsessive compulsive disorder is not like, oh, I just really like to have my socks organized in my drawer. Like, that's not OCD. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder, in which a person has rituals or obsessions that they absolutely are driven and have to do. And they can only find some sort of relief if they do those things. And that relief is very short-lived in most cases. So it's not like oh, I just really like to have my socks organized by color. It's like, I have to do this thing 3 times or someone in my life might die. So it's very extreme. It's very like, I cannot get relief. I cannot, it's like itching from the inside out. I cannot get rid of this feeling unless I do this thing. And they're very specific rituals and compulsions that have to be done a certain way. And it's debilitating for people that have OCD. It is really, really difficult. It is a really, really tough condition to have because like you're fighting your brain all the time. You're fighting those rituals, those obsessions all the time. And so again, when people use that as, I'm just really OCD about the way that I like my bathroom clean. No, you're particular about the way that you like your bathroom clean, and that's totally fine. But when we throw OCD around, again, just like with PTSD, it waters down the experience and it makes it less severe for people who really do experience that. And we want to take those conditions seriously so that people who are experiencing and suffering from that can get the treatment that they need.
Totally agree. That's definitely one that I hear a lot. What else you got?
Bipolar.
Oh, yes.
I hear that one a lot. Bipolar, like, oh my gosh, they're like in such a good mood. And then like we were talking about this thing and like all of a sudden like they're super angry. It's like, I swear they're super bipolar. Okay, no, like bipolar is a mental health condition that have extreme highs, extreme lows, but also accompany like insomnia. There's usually sometimes some sort of trauma that's behind bipolar disorder, suicidal ideation, self-harm, really difficulty in maintaining relationships because of those highs and lows. It isn't just being in a bad mood and then being in a good mood, or even mood swings. Like, mood swings are not bipolar. Bipolar is a actual disorder that should be treated by, a psychiatrist, psychologist, and isn't something that's just like a mood thing where you're in a good mood and then you're in a bad mood. So again, that can be really damaging when you're describing another person, especially to describe them as bipolar is just a really damaging way to describe a behavior that maybe you don't like, or a behavior that you've noticed that like, hey, I noticed that like you seemed really happy and really joyful earlier, and now it feels like you're really angry or really sad, like what's going on, instead of just like attaching this, disorder to it that's completely unrelated to the person. And it stigmatizes, again, right? Like all of these different disorders, it stigmatizes them into being something that's really negative, instead of focusing on, again, the behaviors in a relationship that you don't like, so that we can leave room for people that actually suffer from these disorders to get the help that they need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know this one's on your list. And I don't mean to just jump real quick, but it made me think of it with that last couple of sentences that you just said. Another one that I think is right up there. Do you have narcissist on your list?
Of course, narcissist is on the list.
That's been a buzzword for the last couple of years. My goodness.
Yes. So a lot of these buzzwords too, like they cycle on social media, where they'll like be like really hot on the algorithm for a while, and then it'll like switch to something else. So narcissism is definitely still there. I think it peaked about 6-12 months ago, but it's definitely still there. Narcissism is a personality disorder that affects probably around 5% of people. So it's a very small sample of people.
Right. Right.
And the reason why it's kind of an estimate, just like most things, is because, most people that have actual narcissism are not going to go get treated to see if they have narcissism, because there's nothing wrong with them. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Loosely said, right? So when we throw words around like they're a narcissist, you're saying that this person has a diagnosed personality disorder where they are unable to share in the same sorts of emotions, relationships as neurotypical people. And that is really damaging to say, right? Every single human being has narcissistic tendencies and qualities, like everybody does, right? It's just part of human nature. But narcissism, again, is an actual disorder. It's not a good time, right? And so to use that word and throw it around, again, your algorithm is going to catch on to that. And then you're going to start to make connections in your brain that like, oh my gosh, they really are a narcissist because they do this, this, and this. Okay, well, like I probably do some of those things every now and then too, but that doesn't make me a narcissist. You know what I mean? And so again, focusing on the behaviors that you don't like, that you find offensive, rather than using an actual personality disorder to describe somebody, that can be really, really damaging. And most often, not always by any means, but a lot of times when I see narcissism being described, I see it being described as like the man, like the male in a boyfriend, husband being a narcissist. And I don't have any research or evidence to suggest like which gender gets diagnosed with narcissism more. Does it exist in men? Absolutely. Does it exist in women? Definitely.
Sure.
When we are using that to describe a typical or common set of behaviors that a lot of women are experiencing in their relationships, then we're latching on to narcissism instead of latching on to like, how can we communicate better? Is this something that's a non-negotiable for me? How are the other aspects of the relationship, emotional safety, intimacy, like all of those things? We're sort of like sidebarring all of that in favor of like, well, now it's narcissism. Now what do I do? What I mean. And so when you go into a therapeutic setting with that already in your mind, it's really hard to backpedal on that and to think differently and have a perspective of like, well, maybe it's not that. Maybe there are some behaviors that are really offensive or that I don't like, or maybe even some that I just can't deal with. But it doesn't necessarily have to be narcissism.
Right.
It's a rare actual disorder. Doesn't happen very often.
And I've heard that. Not that I wouldn't believe you, but I've heard that it's pretty rare to have that diagnosis. Now, you've been through a little bit of school to become licensed and to, become familiar with these things and really understand these things. So honestly, like those of us, me included, who haven't gone through that amount of education, who don't have that training, who don't have that background, like who are we to start making these diagnoses for our friends and family? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's where social media plays a big role, right? Is because you hear somebody saying it, and then your algorithm catches on, and then somebody else says it, someone else says it. But how many of these are actually like professionals that are diagnosing other individuals with these disorders or these situations, right? And so it's damaging for influencers to use their platform to spread misinformation in those ways. You know what I mean? So social media can be a great resource for all kinds of things. Like I spent like 15 minutes watching some lady clean her shower yesterday. It was so freaking satisfying. You know what I mean?
I love those.
But not for like diagnosing mental health disorders or in the place of like actual therapy.
Yeah.
You know?
Makes sense.
So a couple other ones that we hear often, not as often as those ones, is again kind of along the same lines as like OCD, bipolar, is ADHD. I hear that one get thrown around a lot too, where I'm just like, I'm really active, I'm really hyper, I'm just like, I swear I have ADHD because like I have to be on my phone and typing at the same time. And it's like, well, maybe, but probably not. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole other subset of behaviors or requirements, so to speak, to like meet an actual ADHD diagnosis. And if that's something that you feel like you might be experiencing, then like, please, like, go get evaluated, go get assessed, and like see how that can like, potentially change your life for the better. But to throw it around again, or to throw it around towards a partner or towards someone in your life can feel really damaging too. It's again, stigmatizing a condition that is really difficult for a lot of people with ADHD, especially if they're managing it later in their life in adulthood, like we've talked about in other episodes before. So to throw that around isn't focusing on, again, the behaviors. It's just trying to attach like some sort of disorder onto it. So that kind of goes along with like OCD and bipolar as well. Another one that I hear too is like trauma bond.
Yes.
The way that I hear it misused is like, oh, well, so-and-so was in a car accident. I was in a car accident. So like we have this trauma bond. Okay, so you both shared like a similar experience, not together, but separately. And like you guys can like align on that, and you have some shared meaning on like what it means to be like in a traumatic car accident. Like, great, glad that you guys can have that conversation. But that's not what a trauma bond is. A trauma bond is something that happens when there's a power dynamic created in a relationship, such as Stockholm syndrome. So Stockholm syndrome is when somebody is kidnapped, for example, and the person who is kidnapped starts to have like, sympathy or empathy or have like some sort of different relationship with their kidnapper, right? We kind of saw it in Beauty and the Beast, right? The Stockholm syndrome. But that is like a trauma bond when there's a power dynamic created within a traumatic environment between two people or more that are sharing the same experience. They're just experiencing it differently, but they're in the same experience. So that's two people that have experienced something separately. Sure, they have some shared meaning. They can talk about that, but that isn't what a trauma bond is. And when we misuse that, again, it stigmatizes what a trauma bond actually is. And it can also change the course of whatever, therapeutic focus or treatment that you're seeking, because you're set on like, we have this trauma bond when that it really isn't what it is. You know what I mean? Human nature being what it is, we have an idea in our head of what something is. It's really hard to backpedal on that and try to have a different perspective when we have that like really locked in that must be what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the last two is antisocial. Antisocial, there is an antisocial personality disorder, and antisocial is often used as someone who's like more just introverted or feels more energized spending time alone. Like humans we are social creatures. Like we do not do well in isolation, right? People who are truly antisocial really struggle with relationships. They struggle with emotionally connecting with other people. And it's really difficult. It's a very isolating existence. Whereas someone who's introverted just gets, again, more energized by spending time by themselves. And that's totally okay. It doesn't mean that they are antisocial. Antisocial suggests a social anxiety or something that prevents you from wanting to be social or be in relationships, not just because like I want to hang out and listen to music by myself. Like that does not make you antisocial. It just makes you probably introverted. And then the last one is codependent. I'm starting to hear more and more. Codependent is everybody has some sort of dependency in their relationships. You depend on the other person for, trust, stability, security, emotional safety. Like there's a dependence in every relationship. But when somebody is codependent, your self-esteem, your value, your worth is dependent on the other person's approval, dependent on the other person's own mental state or well-being. Like I cannot feel or do a certain thing unless this person is feeling or doing a certain thing. And so that's what codependency is, rather than just being dependent on somebody. Being dependent on somebody can also be unhealthy in some situations too. But that's where you sort of have to gauge, like, where is my level of dependency with my partner? And can I do these things or do things independently without having to be concerned or worried about, my character, my self-esteem, my worth coming under attack if they don't agree or subscribe or approve of that. So if there's high level of dependency in relationships, that's obviously something that we want to take a look at, right? From an attachment perspective to find out, how can we support more of your individuality? Is there some enmeshment happening where you guys are really dependent on each other emotionally to fulfill each other's needs in entirety? But being codependent, while it's thrown around a lot, isn't something that happens as often as social media land would like to think that it does. So if that's something that you're concerned about, or anything on this list for that matter, and you want to get more information, definitely reach out to your individual therapist, your couples therapist. I am a therapist, but I'm probably not your therapist. So reach out to your supports to get more information, or if you're concerned about any of these things, to get an actual perspective objectively, or an actual diagnosis, so that you are on the right path to what you want.
100% agreed. And if they are looking for a therapist, or if you're not their therapist now, but they want you to be, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Diana Eisel Therapy, saying my own name.
Say that 10 times fast.
In the upper right-hand corner, there's a schedule a consultation. You can schedule a free 15-minute consultation. We can chat a little bit.
Awesome. I love that you do that. I know that is so helpful, especially these days. And it's a great opportunity for people to get to know you a little bit better, right up front. So thank you for what you provide to our community. Have I showed you this yet? Have we seen the QR code?
Cool.
Right. Okay.
QR code.
So I've already showed it to you. Okay, cool. So if you guys want to check out any of our previous episodes, and at the beginning of the show, you heard me say that we've been doing this for over 3 years. It's the truth, guys. So hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at MOMnation USA. That is our handle. Or you can scan this QR code. That's going to get you there on your favorite podcast. See, words are hard. Words are hard this morning. Your favorite podcast platform. Do a search for MOMnation Talk Radio. There you will find us. Download, notify. Yes, you will be notified if you subscribe. Do that. That's perfect. And you'll never miss a beat. Yeah. We'll see you next time, Diana.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks. Bye.
Struggling to reconnect with yourself or the ones you love? Meet Diana Eisel, a licensed marriage and family therapist, here to support your journey toward connection and clarity. She helps you feel seen, heard, and supported as you grow through life's challenges, emotionally, sexually, and relationally. A safe, judgment-free space where growth can begin. Come as you are and grow into who you're becoming. Reach out today and take your first step toward healing with Diana